a lot of upside. And yes!
Oh.
We're going to unite the Murlocs. I'm so excited.
You god. Okay, this is going to be a game for the ages. Unite the Murlocs Quest Shaman up against the Quest Warrior.
All right, let me walk you through this. Imagine a world where you played a lot of Murlocs. Okay, are you still with me?
1 second. I'm there.
Okay. And then you play 10 Murlocs, you get a giant Murloc.
Okay, how big?
It is an 8/8 Murloc for 5 mana. And,
that's big.
Okay, it also refills your hand with random Murlocs.
How many Murlocs?
That's 10 Murlocs.
That's a lot of Murlocs.
That is a lot of Murlocs. It's, like I said, Mega Fin is mega fun. This is one of those decks that I actually had an alarmingly high win rate with, and I stopped playing because, I wanted to see the rest of the meta. I wanted to try out some other stuff, but I'm pretty sure I clocked it at having like a 68 or, 67% win rate.
Oh dear, that's like approximately 2/3 of your games.
Yeah.
That's pretty strong.
And I think more importantly, it has an okay chance against Quest Warrior.
I think that is the most important thing going into this matchup. It's certainly Indonesia's best tools fighting against these early Murlocs are going to be Fiery War Axe, Ravaging Ghoul, and Slam. So 3 great cards early in the hand for Vertigo.
Yeah, the way you want to approach this as the Murloc player is you just basically just want to go like full out. You just want to play as many Murlocs as possible. You want them to just expand or expend resources because they don't really have a lot of great card draw, right? It's Acolyte of Pain, it's Shield Block. So once you get them to use those resources, that's about the time you're activating Megafin. That's when you're like, okay, well, here's a whole bunch more Murlocs. And depending on your draw off of Megafin, you can just get like some zany stuff here. You can get Murloc War Leader, Bluegills. You can get Murlocs that allow you to discover other Murlocs. It's just a child's joy.
You've got a big smile on your face. It just sounds like this is a deck that you thoroughly enjoy. And of course, the Taunt Warrior has the natural removal in the form of Brawl, which if they're able to run the Unite the Murloc Shaman out of Murlocs and out of cards in hand, they're just going to win the game. But Loxodontis doesn't really have any other win condition other than just go ham with Murlocs and go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's... Look, if Vertigo survives the onslaught past, like, turn 10 or 11, he's probably got this. But there's a pretty solid chance he just gets run over by Murlocs. I really think this is going to be kind of a thing where people are like, oh, Unite the Murlocs, maybe it isn't necessarily that strong. I could just play Elemental Shaman, but look, you got options.
Options are never a bad thing.
Yeah, we see in hand for Loxodontis, Primal Fin Totem. This is another one of my cards from the set that I really enjoy. So it's a 2-mana 0/3 totem, and at the end of each turn, it summons a 1/1 Murloc. So that Murloc, no fancy bells or whistles, it's just a little Murloc with a stick. It's coming to get you. But it counts towards the number of Murlocs you need to have for the quest, and it pretty much demands attention. Like you are saying, okay, you're going to have to use a Fiery War Axe charge on this.
Yeah, actually, this totem is one of the better cards I really enjoy coming out of Journey to Un'Goro. Great in Arena, and of course, slots right perfectly into this Unite the Murlocs Shaman build. And then, of course, call in the finishers, shining in this deck. It summons 4 1/1 Murlocs. They all count towards the quest. There's a lot of ways to play one card and sort of cheat the amount of Murlocs that come out of that card.
Yeah, we see Loxodontis here. You're thinking probably at home like, hey, play a Murloc. Come on, play the totem, play the Bluegill, whatever you're going to do. But, it's one of those things where he's trying to map out these turns. We see Barnes. That's not an inclusion I've seen thus far in many of these lists. Obviously it does probably summon another Murloc, so that gets you closer to your quest goal. But I'm trying to think what, high roll potentials would you be looking for off of that. Bluegill Murloc stands out to me, maybe Murloc War Leader, anything that just has charge or instantly buffs the board.
Also, the 1-mana Murloc that gains +1 attack for every Murloc that you play. Maybe that can help you get in some fancy damage there. So Barnes certainly makes sense in this list, but it's definitely a couple different cards that I think we're used to seeing in the Murloc Shaman. But that, again, just goes towards the point that none of these decks are perfect yet. Everything is still in the developmental stage, and everything is still being refined. Taunt Warrior, however, seems like it's getting pretty close to finding the ideal build.
Yeah, shout out to Ray C, who's really put in a lot of work into kind of refining that list. He has some great guides out there if you're looking, at how you at home can cheat and play a bunch of taunts. Ray C's got you covered.
He knows how to cheat death, and he knows how to cheat out some taunt minions. That is what Ray C really shines at. Gentle Megasaur
Yeah.
It is the Adapt All Murlocs.
It is absolutely backbreaking. When you have a board full of Murlocs, there have been more than games that I can count on hand where the dinosaurs come down. I'm like, dinosaur, make my Murlocs hit harder. Now I'll get +3 attack, and they just go. They're just like, wow, this is the worst day of my life if I'm playing against this.
It is important to note that Adapt All Murlocs gives all of your Murlocs the same adapt choice. So if you get Wind Fury for one of them, you get Wind Fury for all of them. You do not get to choose what they all have individually.
It's a very satisfying thing visually. Even if you don't necessarily get the choice you want, there was a point where I made all my Murlocs stealthed, and I was like, oh, they're all Finge's disciples. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, Finge is in this deck as well. Just what everyone wants. More Finge.
Oh, yes.
All right,
Sounds like a
Rockpool
dream.
Hunter, a new minion for Ngoro. Pretty straightforward, +1/1. Visually, I love his card art. That's just the way to live, just kind of walking around with your stick, just buffing other Murlocs, hitting people. I'm a simple man, Core. I like simple things.
Rob, I have to stand next to you for like the next 10 weeks, and now you're talking about hitting people, and
Nah,
I don't know.
production won't give me a stick. They know better.
Maybe.
There's flags behind us.
Oh, well. It has to be a stick. Vertigo, in the meantime, kind of figuring out how he wants to approach this. The Murlocs are slowly but steadily coming, and Vertigo has to kind of figure out if there's a way he can get onto the board. And the thing is, Taunt Warrior doesn't necessarily do it that quickly. Like, yeah, you have Stonehill Defender. You can put that on the board, but that dies pretty easily to Murlocs. You have Bloodhoof Brave. That can get on the board, and that can cause problems. But Alley Armorsmith is really where you first start kind of giving the Murlocs problems. Now, again, since we can't see the list, we don't know if Loxodontes is running any kind of taunt or anything like that. But in the version I run, that's usually where my taunt goes, to an Alley Armorsmith.
So many choices.
I mean, the Taunt Warrior build is just so straightforward that the game plan it's trying to execute, with all likelihood, the best play that they would have every turn and what they're trying to do. And when they get that quest, well, they probably just win the game. So, the Murloc Shaman, this matchup actually really...
It's good.
I'm very interested in.
Again, in my limited experience, it is one that I feel like the Murloc Shaman actually has a pretty good matchup for. All right, there's the +3 attack, and I say let's get him.
Of course you do. And
Well, I mean, +3 health, actually, not joking for a second, I think there's some merit to +3 health. Wind Fury, I don't think you're really getting the most bang for your buck here, but I think you could go +3 attack and feel good about it, although your opponent not being on low health, it's kind of one of those situations where I believe, aside from the Megasaur, both of those Murlocs have 1 health, so you're kind of just begging to get Ravaging Gould at that point. So maybe the health is good, and then you try to get to a point where you're like, all right, I have my War Leader, I'm ready to go. These Murlocs are very durable, they're sustainable. Yeah, the more I think about it, I want Rocky Carapace. Yep.
They agree. Just trying to decide, do we want that fast damage now, or do we think we can get more damage over the long haul by extending our Murloc's health? And ultimately, that's what Brazil decides to go with. And now, Vertigo is going to have a little bit of a tougher time removing this board. It just feels so bad to have to execute a 2-mana minion or Shield Slam.
I mean, that Murloc's got a stick. You can't just leave him up. That's a problem. Execute is the solution. Yeah.
Execute is the solution. It looked like Vertigo was considering Shield Lock, Shield Slam on the Megasaur.
No, I actually, despite Vertigo not having the most experience, I really like the amount of restraint he's showing. He's not just tossing out like 1 spell to 1 Murloc per easily. Like, he's waiting for something to come down that is actually just a threat. And then he's like, okay, now I'm going to use one of my removals because he understands that there is such a premium in this matchup.
Well, and it is important to note, again, teams are allowed to communicate with each other. So although these men are playing alone, it looks like they are on comms likely with their teammates, which is why these turns are taking longer than Stanadachi's turns, that's for sure. Because they're debating, well, this is what I have, what is the best play here, and they're really talking that through. So really happy to see that.
Yeah, and I feel like whenever I've seen some of the Brazilian guys in the past playing, I feel like they've taken their turns a little bit quickly for my liking. So, you know what? Hey, you're here. Enjoy it. You're competing at a high level. Just make sure to take the full turn length. It means I get to hang out with you more, Cora. So obviously,
I know you love that.
I'm extremely excited about that.
Till we get Cardboard Korra online.
Cardboard Korra is the best invention that chat can't know about just yet.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, chat. Maybe later.
One day.
All right, so looks like Loxodon is just thinking about playing down the Primal Fin Totem. Cold Light Seer isn't terrible, but I don't necessarily know that you're getting too much value out of it, so probably okay to skip. Doesn't choose to use the Totem. Is that strictly to play around Brawl, you think?
I would have to think so. Honestly, I wouldn't be too upset if this board were brawled for me. I think, yeah, you'd like to get Cold Light Seer off in the next turn and get some really hardy Murlocs on the board, but if this draws a brawl, great. That means that when I drop Megafin, the Murlocs in my hand likely aren't getting removed. So, yeah, maybe some restraint shown there by Brazil. I don't think the Totem would have done too much good either way.
Yeah, they need to start getting to the point soon where they're going to finish the quest. They're going to get the Megafin, get the reload, get the 8/8. We do see a Dire Horn Hatchling come out, which is even cuter when
So
it's
cute.
animated.
I don't have one of those golden yet, but man, I'm just getting Land Before Time vibes, and it's
Yeah.
great. I'm super happy about it.
I really wish Dire Horn Hatchling was just a pet I can or a pet I can have in real life. That's a pretty cute dinosaur.
That's a pretty good dinosaur.
Now, over on Loxodon's side, he's also probably thinking about that cute dinosaur.
He's like, do I kill it? Am I a bad person?
Could I not kill it? Could I just leave it up? He does have the Lightning Bolt, though, so there is a world where he spends all his mana this turn, just goes Bluegill Warrior, Cold Light Seer, buffs up the health of these Murlocs, commits a Lightning Bolt. It looks like...
Rob, you must be psychic.
I don't know if he's going to actually play the Seer here. The Seer is a very valuable resource in this, because there's a point where you essentially say, listen, the only way you get back to this board is Brawl. So I really do respect holding it here, but I think... I don't know. I don't know if playing not playing a Totem is necessarily the best way to approach this every turn, because I do think the Taunt Totem is fairly relevant. You've only seen one War Axe. I don't know. Maybe it's fine.
Well, you know what? It's consistent with the game plan they went for on the turn prior. This is actually exactly the same board that Loxodontis had before his last turn.
Yeah.
So,
It's also worth noting that if he played a Totem and he got called in the finishers...
yeah, then you could not.
Yeah, so that's another point. I'm just trying to wrap my head around like why you wouldn't do that, but I think that's pretty fair. Okay, this is now this is good. I think this is the time you commit the Cold Light Seer.
Murloc War Leader is probably the best Murloc in the game. +2/+1 to all Murlocs on the board, and the biggest combo piece that a deck like this has. It turns Call in the finishers. It turns these 1/1 Murlocs off of the Totem into something that you can actually go offensive with or use as great value trades.
Yeah, pretty good assessment there. I just think the way your hand's going, like, okay, you need to start working with the resources you have. You're not playing Barnes yet for some reason, and on this turn it just doesn't work since you don't want to play Totems anyway. I think it's just time to go.
Getting very close to completing the quest as well for Loxodontes. But I do respect the amount of patience being shown here.
I say no more patience.
I say go time.
Get
No,
him.
He disagrees.
Okay.
I think this is still a very strong board, to be
never
fair.
Cold Light Seer.
Feels bad, Seer.
Poor Seer.
I
Seer
mean,
and
if-
Barnes are just hanging out like, when's our day going to come?
If you can draw out a brawl with this board, where most of your power has been coming from a 2-mana totem that's just stuck around for like 4 turns, I think you're okay with that. Like, yes, this board looks strong. It's deceptive.
Deceptive and easy to destroy.
What's the tagline? Like,
Yeah.
something deceptive, but
Deceptively easy.
easy. Something fun.
Insanely difficult to master.
Yeah.
All right, well, and suddenly there was one Murloc. You know how that wouldn't have happened?
Go on, tell me. How would that not have happened?
If they had more health.
Oof.
Oof. Ooh, Finja. Okay.
Well, I'd say
So-
that's probably the best thing you want to hit off Barnes. I take back my answer from before.
Yeah,
Because Finja is actually just insane.
Yeah, and this is definitely the time to commit that Cold Light Seer. Now, you've seen a Whirlwind, you've seen 2 Ghouls. There isn't too much just yet, but it also allows you to complete the quest. So, yeah, this is This is pretty big. Empty out that lightning bolt out of the hand because it would have just filled up valuable space a Murloc could have occupied. So
I think that's actually very important as well.
Yeah.
You want to get the quest on the turn that you're emptying your hand. And this was really the first opportunity for Loxodontes to play Barnes, and it wouldn't have cluttered up the board too much.
yeah, Vertigo suddenly in a kind of bad way. Although if he dirty rats the Mega Fin,
Oh, no.
this is disgusting. Loxodontes. We've all been robbed.
No.
All right, so yeah, this is pretty much just how you lose as the person playing Unite the
crap.
Murlocs.
That's awful.
All right, so, okay. Taking a step back now, you still have anything. You basically play now like Brawl doesn't exist, Deathwing doesn't exist. Those cards, not in that deck. You can still draw a couple of Murlocs out of your deck. Hope you get that second War Leader. Hope you get a Bluegill. But yeah, that is absolutely terrible.
I mean, you never want to say it's over, but
Unless you're in a relationship you don't want to be in anymore. Then you want to say it's over.
okay,
Sure.
fair. So there are some situations where you want to say it's over.
Thank you, Cora. Just ask for a little bit of recognition sometimes.
Whatever you say, Rob. I'm happy to help.
All right, so let's see what we get. Okay, Cold Light Seer and Rockpool Hunter not going to get it done. So, all right, Loxodontes has the big board. He's just basically saying no Deathwing, no Brawl. He's going to get some pretty
man.
bad news here.
Yeah, Drakefish is
Yep.
you know one of those times where you want to say it's over. Yeah, this is now. It's done.
Yeah, I didn't. I was so keen on the Deathwing, but that does it too. And Loxodontes,
Vertigo breaking a smile.
Loxodontes, in all honesty, will never break through that 4-8, let alone hit face. This is the.
But what about a 0-1?
I said he wouldn't break through a 4-8. He can break through an 0-1.
Unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be going down 0-1.
Damn.
Thanks,
Brutal,
Rob.
wrecked, savage. Oh, Paul's not watching. Yeah, I mean, okay, 4-8 down, but
Now we have a very long way to go.
yeah,
It's not going to happen for
Nope.
Brazil.
at least in this one. It's just one game. And I want to point out, like, when we evaluate the merit of this deck versus Elemental Shaman, I want to point out they were, this was going fine until that Dirty Rat. That Dirty Rat came off the top, and look, 2 copies of Dirty Rat are in Tom. You just know that.
Search now we're more familiar, but certainly they have a lot to prove, and this is going to be an old school Jade Druid for Leo Main and that Elemental Jade package for Nexoc 40. Jade Druid was a Druid build that I grossly left out of the options, and that was terrible of me because certainly Jade Druid is very viable still.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about decks with inevitability. Gadgets and Auctioneer keep cycling into the Jade spell, the 1-mana Jade spell, and you're good. You just keep making increasingly large minions, and you just drown your opponent in golems.
Feral Rage coming into hand. Interesting to see that card chosen over the recent 1-mana addition from Journey to Ungoro. Gonna need to see how it plays out for Leo Main and the Brazilian team.
Yeah, I mean, I think the flexibility you get from Feral Rage maybe justifies the fact that sometimes you're getting less health, you're not buffing a minion, because you can actually deal with an early board. Feral Rage, though, kind of to me feels a little bit of a relic from an age where you had to have an answer to Totem Golem, you have to have an answer to Frothing Berserker, so I agree it's an interesting inclusion. I would expect to see Fandral here, though, which can definitely help you get value out of it.
Yeah, Fandral is certainly a huge reason why you would want to be playing Feral Rage, because then you, in a lot of cases, can get 4 attack and 8 armor instead of just armor and a +1/+1 buff.
Man, I love seeing Nexoc 40 and the crew in that bottom window. They're just sitting there laughing, having a good time. It seems like so far in the global games, when we've seen teams come together, they've always been sitting, they've always been laughing and having a good time. So, win or lose, you get to hang out with your friends. You're competing for some prize money for the pride of your region. It's just overall a really cool experience and something awesome to see.
Hearthstone is best when played with friends, and though it is a digital card game, there are plenty of opportunities to get together with others and play at a LAN event or, just in your buddy's house.
Yeah.
because you're all playing in the same tournament.
You know, just recently, Fireside Gatherings were buffed in the most recent patch. There's some
Oh,
stuff
they
coming
were?
down. Yeah. Take some time to go out there and see where you can meet up and play with your friends. It can be a very social game, but looking at the game itself, Indonesia running an Elemental Shaman, as you said, that also features some of the Jade package. Probably just looking at Jade Claws, Jade Lightning, and Eye of Blackpaw. Those are the standout cards at this point. You know, you're probably not going to see Jade Chieftain. I want to point out that since Brand Bronzebeard is now in Wild, it definitely makes Jade a little bit weaker because you can't really have like those crippling mid-game turns where you say, you know, play Bran, play the Jade Claws, get like a 3-3 and a 4-4, which all at once is just so much tempo. So I think that may be why we're seeing people switch over more towards that elemental version.
Yeah, it definitely hurts Jade Shaman as its own archetype. Mid-range Jade Shaman we were seeing quite a bit of pre-Ungoro in the various tournaments, and it was very strong, it was very reactive, but definitely Brand Bronzebeard was a large instigator for why that deck was viable. With Jade Druid, you have Jade Idol, you have Jade Behemoth. The Jade package in this deck is just naturally much stronger than in the Jade Shaman, so the loss of Brand definitely hurts, but you can still build your Jades very, very large without him.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good synopsis of that. I do want to point out Nexoc40 and the gang just played down Igneous Elemental. That is a new card to Journey to Ungoro. It is a 3-mana 2/3 that when it dies, puts 2 Flame Elementals in your hand, and those are just 1/2, so you may be thinking, okay, well, those aren't necessarily super big. But, you know, for a class like Shaman, which has Flame Tongue Totem, suddenly small cards become big. It can also be a cheap enabler for cards like Blade Caller, Kalimos the Primal Lord, so Igneous Elemental is one of those cards where personally I'm still evaluating if it justifies in that kind of crowded 3 spot for Shaman, but it's definitely an interesting proposition.
This card is the bane of my existence. I've been playing against so much Quest Rogue, as I'm sure a lot of you have, with the ladder being flooded with it, and this card creating 2 Flame Elementals is just so very difficult to shut down. And getting those cheap elemental activators in Shaman is incredibly valuable. Like you said, being able to slot them in on a turn before you play Blaze Caller, before you play Servant of Kalamos. It's really, really important to have those activators in this deck, which is very dependent on them.
Yeah, it absolutely makes or breaks your elemental deck, the ability to have cheap activators. So, like I said, curious to see how this plays out. Meanwhile, on the board, Leomane is really curving quite nicely into that ramped mana curve. You know, we see Druid of the Claw coming out in bear form. We saw a 2/3 and a 1. Okay, so these are interesting choices. I have to think Kalimos is always the take. But as much as Kalimos can do a wide range of things, it's worth noting that I don't really feel like he's necessarily as powerful until the end of the game when you're basically looking for that 6 damage shutout. Because what he does on the board, especially against a class, you know, like Druid playing the Jade package, 3 damage to the whole of the board by the time you can reasonably play Kalimos is kind of underwhelming.
It's not nearly as good as it would be in other matchups. I think Kalimos is still the take here just because it's so difficult to deny
Absolutely.
Just how incredible he is as a card. Hot Spring Guardian, I think, was also an option. It gives you a cheaper minion to be able to fit in over the course of your next few turns, which is important because your hand is very reactive right now. 2 Maelstrom Portals and a Lightning Storm, it's going to clean up the early Jades, but there is a barrier to how good those cards are the longer this game goes.
So you would not consider Stormwatcher at all?
I actually quite like Stormwatcher.
Same.
He's fantastic in Arena. 8 health is really hard to get over. I don't think in this case he's the pick.
Oh, that's fair. I really like Stormwatcher. I think I think people could take a flyer on him. He's not nearly as weak as he might appear. He does, when you first look at him, just scream Arena card.
Yeah.
But I definitely think there's some value to Stormwatcher. Nexoc's hand, as you pointed out, is just pretty much reactive. He's kind of waiting to get to those later turns, and if he doesn't draw another elemental prior to 7, he's going to play a Blaze Caller as a 7-mana 6/6, which, you know, you don't have to be a genius to know that's definitely not what you want to be doing.
Well, fortunately, this Igneous Elemental Death Rattle will put 2 1/2 1-mana cost elemental cards in hand. So the Indonesian team is going to be looking to kill this card off quickly and then plan out their next few turns with the help of those Flame Elementals.
Yeah. And we see here they're considering just Lightning Storm, and I would imagine possibly just following it up with a Maelstrom Portal. Oh. Okay, so at this point...
Not terrible.
Yeah, you're pretty much at this point just hoping there's no Nourish that comes off the Fandral, because that would be a huge problem. But all right, Maelstrom Portal comes out. That is going to put those Flame Elementals in the hand. Light Warden, let's just be honest, it's a 1-2.
It's better than a 1-1.
Yeah, that's true. That is statistically accurate.
Thank you, Rob.
I'm glad to be able to. I give you the Twitter check mark on that one. That's verified.
I'm going to take that one home with me.
Yeah.
Frame it. Certainly Nourish would be the absolute most backbreaking card to come out here for Leo main. Jade Idol is good enough. I'd say you definitely want that to come down this turn. And Feral Rage, well, it seems like there's a lot of value here. I think you might actually want the 4 attack later on in the game, so I don't think you play that this turn.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that one. I don't want to disagree, but thinking about Feral Rage, the 4 damage, I think you reach a certain point where what is the Shaman really playing that is 4 health?
Hot Spring Guardian is pretty much
Yeah, I mean,
what you're looking at.
I guess you're thinking maybe more you combo it into something else.
Yeah.
So Leo main feels similarly, decides to go ahead and hold the Feral Rage for now, and I think that's completely fair. You're really not actually accomplishing anything.
He holds the Jade Idol as well, which I think is very telling that, well, one of two things. Either he doesn't think that Indonesia has 1 damage removal on the Fandral this turn, which they do have the second Maelstrom Portal, or there's other cards in his deck that he would rather draw at this point than other copies of Jade Idol.
Yeah. I mean, that's usually how it goes when you don't just jam the Jade Idol when you have Fandral down. You're basically saying to yourself, okay, this is just kind of at a point where, realistically, I don't want to be drawing this. Burgly Bully, now that is an interesting inclusion in Jade Druid.
That absolutely is. It's something that we, up until this point, have only seen in, like, Reno Mage. 5 mana, 4/6, whenever your opponent plays a spell, put a coin into your hand. I can see where it would be useful in this deck. It's an interesting inclusion.
Yeah, it's definitely...
If
it
you're
has a
playing
lot of
Gadgets and
matchups.
Auctioneer,
Right.
it's great.
And it has a lot of matchups where it's going to shine maybe more brightly than it would in certain matchups. You know, if you're running into Zoo a lot, you're probably not going to play Burgly Bully. You're looking for very specific decks that play a decent amount of spells, and I think Shaman's fair. Shaman's kind of middle of the pack there. You know, that said, you've already seen 2 Maelstrom Portals. You've already seen a Lightning Storm, so you've seen a pretty good bit of what you imagine is kind of in this mid-range Shaman deck.
In the same vein, though, if this draws a Hex, I think that's pretty good. That's a Hex that may not be going at your Eye of Blackpaw. So I think the Burgly Bully actually fits in quite well. We were seeing 2 Druid of the Claws in a lot of Jade builds prior to Ungoro. Maybe you just remove one of those, go for the same 5 mana, 4/6 stat line, and think that the coins are going to be more useful than Taunt or the ability to charge.
Yeah, so Indonesia has kind of an interesting turn here. They feel like they have to get the value from the Elemental synergy. Can't blame them for that. Unfortunately, they're unable to deal with Burgly Bully, but the upside of Burgly Bully is it's just a 4/6 on their turn. You're not having to worry about that power being activated, so getting a 6/6 on the board is pretty good, and Leo main in a position that a lot of time Druid doesn't find themselves in, which is low in cards.
Yeah, this is very unusual. They haven't drawn Nourish yet,
Yep.
or Gadgets and Auctioneer, so that's going to be their main card draw in the build. And Indonesia has just been very intelligently utilizing their resources this game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where as the Elemental Shaman player, like, you have big power turns coming up. So long as you just allow yourself to get to those turns. That said, you do know that Jade Druid will eventually run you off the board and end the game if you don't deal with them in a timely manner. But this mid-range point is really about when the Elemental Shaman seems to hit its power spike thus far. So, yeah, maybe if you run Pirates, it's a little different. The version Boar Control runs that I've been playing has Corsair and it has patches. But yeah, this is pretty much the pace that I think Indonesia wants to be going at.
Well, the choice to keep the Feral Rage for later, coming in very hot for Brazil, able to remove that Blaze Collar and really just trying to get value off of this Burgly Bully if they possibly can.
Yeah, and, at 18 health, you're not really very low here, but 4 damage over multiple turns can start to stack up.
It means something. It's valuable.
Yeah, the question Indonesia has to start asking themselves is kind of when is enough enough? And, do we foresee a situation where Hex is going to be more valuable? And obviously, knowing what Jade Druid does, you do realize that there are going to be bigger fish to fry, so to speak. but is it going to matter by the time you finally get to that point?
Well, that's certainly what they have to be figuring out here, but there is just so much value in hand for Indonesia. Nexoc 40 going to be pretty much playing an elemental every turn from here on out, and there is another Kalamos Primal Lord.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Let's just take Kalamos.
It's just so good.
I mean, or you could take something that does 3 damage, just period, or you could take Kalamos. I think you take Kalamos.
I think I like Kalamos. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, look, Fire Elemental has a little white gem. Kalamos
yeah.
has an orange gem.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That must mean he's good.
And
I mean, like you said.
Hemet Nessingwary.
Yes, Hemet Nessingwary, he's so good. Like you said, eventually the Jade Druid, they have that inevitability factor where the golems grow just so large, and if you have Jade Idol plus Gadgets and Auctioneer, you cycle till the cows come home, and you build up that huge board state. But looking at Nexoc 40's hand right now, it is so full of value, removal, board pressure, everything that they could possibly want, except for really AoE clear, which wouldn't even matter at this point, because Brazil's minions are going to be getting too large.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point there. And okay, Jade Behemoth comes down. This is definitely something Leo Main wanted to see. He can also cycle here. He has broken the cardinal rule of Hearthstone, and he
Leo
cycled
Main.
last. Leo, man, come on.
Nah, he's actually going to keep the excess mana. That's something that is really fantastic to have if
With the
you draw
Gadgets
into
in.
that Gadgets and Auctioneer. That big if being the factor here.
The point of the story being people watching that Leo Main has a plan here, so, you know.
Don't knock him.
I don't want to see any of that
playing
draw
wild growth
last.
here. No, this
fail
was
finish.
absolutely correct by him.
Yeah. That's what he's going to need to get back into this game, is an explosive Gadgets in turn. So definitely heads up play from him, realizing what he needs to do to, you know, progress his agenda. Now on 9 mana, Indonesia, you know, you see Kalamos. You have 2 Kalamoses. You have Kalamai in hand.
Kalamai Primal Lord.
You just want to go. But yeah, unfortunately, not going to be the way this plays out. It is important, though, that you play another elemental, and, you know, Nexoc 40's health total, sub
Getting
15.
pretty low.
Yeah.
The Burgley Bully sticking around for yet another turn.
Yeah, that 6 health stat line, I cannot imagine that is here because of Blaze Caller, but it is certainly doing work against Blaze Caller.
Just that 1 point of health really makes it an absolute nuisance to clear off the board. A Jade Behemoth picked up for Leo Main. It's a great card, it's a good draw, but it's not what he was looking for. He wanted Nourish or Gadgets and Auctioneer at this point because the hand size differential is just in favor of Nexoc 40 and has been for so long in this game.
Yeah, Leo Main's going to go ahead and just offer up the excess mana. He's going to say, okay, I just need to get something going. Now, he has the Innervate, so he could, you know, play the Jade Behemoth. He could also play the Druid of the Claw if he just decides, okay, I just need to get stuff on the board now. I've seen both Blaze Callers. It looks like he's going for the
Caller
swipe.
would be terrifying.
Yeah, I don't know we want that.
Just pushing damage.
Yep.
I think Leo Main has identified, especially with the Druid of the Claw draw, he's not waiting for Gadgets and Auctioneer anymore. If he can just kill Nexoc 40, no amount of cards in Nexoc 40's hand can stop that, except Kalamos Primal Lord. I don't know if you know this, he can heal you for 12.
Yeah, I've actually... okay, I feel like most people would expect this. I mean, I actually didn't know he could do that, because I always just hit the 6.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, we could just do 6 damage.
Deal 6 damage, deal 3 damage to your opponent's board, restore 12 health to your hero, or fill your board with 1/1 elementals.
Wow.
He's a greater healing potion.
That's really cool. I mean, I learned something today. I don't know we could do
The
that.
more you know.
I mean, I guess in this situation you heal. That's fair.
Well, I mean, there's still 9 on Leo Main's side of the board.
He has 3 Kalamoses, by the way. Let that sink in. That was the first of 3.
Oh, that's 36 health.
That's too much. That's definitely cheating.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And Leo Man is just waiting for that train that doesn't appear to ever be coming into the station. He's just like, why have you forsaken me, card draw? All right.
Nourish, where art thou?
Nourish, my prince.
Sweet Nourish.
Sweet Nourish. Unfortunately, Nourish just not showing up, and Leo Man's like, okay, now we set him to 8. We got this, right?
We can totally finish this game. Oh.
he's gonna be in for some bad news. Because it's second Calamos, the Primal Lord. He's like a bad anime villain. He just keeps coming back at this point. You're just like, why are there so many of these? All right, that's a worthy hex target. Yeah, you're giving up a coin, but I mean,
who cares?
Leomain's on one card. He's not a mage. He doesn't have Antonitis, so you probably feel pretty okay about this.
Yeah, coin. I mean, you clearly know Leomain doesn't have any card draw in hand. He would have played it by now.
Ooh, and the Style Hot Spring Guardian. Like, by the way, it's a taunt.
It's like, I don't need 12 health right now. This is good. It's good enough.
And you still have both Calamos in hand. So it's pretty much Nourish, and I'm not even sure Nourish does anything. Okay, there's Gadget's hand. There's the coin. What do you need? What is the exact sequence of draws?
Jade Idol. Jade Idol.
Wrath. I think you need a Wrath to kill the 7/3.
Deathwing.
Jade Blossom not doing it, but you play it anyway. You're gonna get a 6/6.
Generates a minion. That's important.
Yep. Oh, hey, look, it's that guy.
Man, that sucks.
Nourish. Game started a few minutes ago.
Just a couple, buddy. You're a little late. Fashionably late.
Unfortunate.
Maybe.
Fortunately, Leomain still looking at a bad spot here. Okay. So the Flame Tongue Totem could come down.
Well, actually, that's just game.
Oh.
Calamos deals 6 to face, 4 extra from the Flame Tongues. That's going to be 9, 14, 18 plus 6.
Yeah. You know what?
I
That
believe
just
that's
does it.
24. That's lethal.
It's pretty good. Good job, Calamos.
Well, I'll be damned. Calamos the Primal Lord. If you're playing Elemental decks, it's a pretty good card.
Leomain looks pretty stressed out about the second Calamos. I'm not sure what he would have done about the third one.
I think it's probably best he just doesn't know.
Don't watch the VODs, Leomain.
You don't want to know, man. It wasn't good. It didn't end well for you.
You're
But
out
it
there.
absolutely is. But this is already surprising me just a little bit. Kirin Tor Mage in the opener. I think we're looking at some form of a secret spin on
I have
the mage
seen,
decks that we've been seeing.
Okay, so I've seen Kirin Tor Mage probably twice since the set released, and I lost both times to it. It was the full Seeker package. It was Cabal Lackey. It was Kirin Tor Mage. It was Arcanologist. It was Mirror Entity Counterspell, just like you expected from the old Tempo Mages.
Yeah.
But yeah, I obviously we don't know exactly what's in this, which frankly makes this very exciting for me. This is one of those deck archetypes I've always been a big fan of.
It actually makes perfect sense. Arcanologist turn 2 fits right into Kirin Tor Mage plus a guaranteed secret on turn 3. I don't know. I'm excited to see if this works out. And then the Hunter build for Resden, we saw the Bittertide Hydra in the opening hand. It is a very... it's a card that a lot of people are torn upon. Some people think it's really great. Some people think it's terrible. Clearly, Indonesia is favoring the card.
Yeah, I'm firmly lodged in the camp of Bittertide Hydra is awesome and everything I've ever wanted. It is a 5-mana 8/8. That's a beast. Like, look, you're going to take damage, whatever, but generally speaking, when you're the aggressor, your life total is a pretty, like, marginal resource you're willing to expend. Is that a
It came from the Babbling Book.
Okay, good. Okay. Sorry, I was talking to you and I was looking over at you, and I just want to make sure.
I mean, I can't blame you. My eyes got really big, but then I could see the thoughts going through your head. But no, came from the Babbling Book.
Whew, we can go on and keep casting Hearthstone. Shatter was not put in a deck intentionally.
It is the opposite of Babbling Book, but it does look like Brazil elected to keep their entire opening hand of double Babbling Book, Cold Light Oracle, Kirin Tor Mage. Makes sense to me. Book 1, Coin Cold Light 2 if you want it, Kirin Tor 3.
That's ambitious to me these days with the way Hunter's going. Like, it's just Alley Cat, and you're like, oh, look, kittens, and then they die, and then suddenly Scavenging Hyena. Yeah, like, Hunter goes fast these days. And, you know, fair, Hunter's always been a class that is doing its best when it's going fast, but I really want to see what secrets we're running in here, because I don't know that Mirror Entity is necessarily going to cut it.
No, I mean, I have a feeling this is just a spin on the mages that we've been seeing. I'm sure we're going to see Ice Barrier, Ice Block, and then you just have Kirin Tor Mage as a vessel to get those spells up.
Yeah. Crackling Razor Maw here. Okay, well, let's see what we get here. Death Rattle summon 2 planes just seems like the obvious choice, because realistically, you do want the Kindly Grandmother body to actually go away, so you can get the 3/2 Wolf. You're just putting more pressure on the board at this point. And yeah, this is... We see the Galoka Crawler in there, and we mentioned it at the beginning of the broadcast. Galoka Crawler, usually you're going to run it in some decks to deal with pirates. The upside for Hunter is it's also a beast. So there's synergy with Houndmaster, synergy with Kill Command. I'm just giddy about the fact that there is an anti-pirate tech that also just specifically benefits Rexar.
Yeah, I mean, you can just play it in every Hunter deck, and
that can be your life.
When you're not playing against pirates, the negative drawback is at its least in a Hunter deck, because it does synergize with all of the Beast synergy cards. So this is where it shines the most. Kagloran, we see Arcanologist coming into hand, so we may find out what secrets, or at least one of the secrets, that the Brazilian team has elected to put into this build. And Primordial Glyph coming off of the second Babbling Book is a lot better than Shatter. May give them a discount on a form of AoE removal that will come in very handy later on.
All right, let's see what the options were here. We see Vaporize, Mana Bind, and Greater Arcane Missiles, and none of these really stand out to me. Now, Mana Bind is a secret that I have not touched at all. I think it could be cool in tournament, basically, where you can basically isolate what you're looking to face. Vaporize just, frankly, is garbage against Hunter, and good luck surviving long enough to play Greater Arcane Missiles.
I mean, Mana Bind is a nice take. You get to play it this turn because of the Sorcerer's Apprentice on board, giving the additional 1 mana discount.
Sure.
It's all right. Great Arcane Missiles, you're going to be running up against a lot of 1/1 little tokens against the Hunter build, and it's never going to do anything for you. So, hey, maybe this way you pick up a Kill Command.
I mean, there's also just the pressure of what that secret could be. And that's oftentimes, especially for mages who have some of the most impactful spells in all of Hearthstone. That's the upside of it. And, when you're looking at Mana Bind versus Vaporize, Vaporize is actually just bad for you.
Yeah.
It could be a universe where Mana Bind gets you something that matters. A Kill Command could be a big deal. Kind of have to see what happens here, though. All right, so this is a big board from the Hunter, and I want to point out Koglarine is running the Cold Light Oracle, which, is kind of a very common tool right now for Mage to dig through the deck. But the last thing you want to do is give an aggro deck more cards. That's supposed to be their drawback. They're not supposed to have a bunch of cards.
Yeah, they start off very strong, and the Hunter has that consistent form of damage from the steady shot, but after a certain amount of turns have passed, they're living on the top of their deck, and Cold Light Oracle is possibly worse for you than it does actually benefit you by drawing the 2 cards. Medivh's Valet, however, is a welcome inclusion in these secret inclusion mage builds. 3 damage when you have a secret up, very strong.
Yeah, I hadn't really necessarily considered much in the way of the secret archetype specifically for Mage, but, if Koglarine's bringing it, I want to say this is something that actually inspires my confidence to potentially go try this build, because he's someone who's not going to bring something that's bad. If anything, I would think he brought it because it's not something you're expecting.
I think that's actually a great point. It's still only a week into Journey to Ungoro's release, but I think people have really started to think that they figured out what the meta is. So if you bring something that's a little bit different, you try to catch them off guard, maybe that gives you an edge.
Yeah, it is really kind of one of the major differences between this and the Hearthstone Championship Tour that, if you're someone who feels like you have a better read on the meta and you feel a little bit clever, you can definitely take advantage of. And we see now Koglarine is going to get a copy of Kill Command, which, can't feel great necessarily for Indonesia, but at least you know what that secret was now. And Medivh's Valet is going to require a new secret to function. You don't have to worry about any of those kind of shenanigans at this very moment.
I think a free copy of Kill Command is certainly welcome for Brazil. Second Cold Light Oracle coming into hand. It's looking like they're going to have to bite the bullet and draw in these coming turns if they don't pick up something better. But for now, Kill Command going to help them deal with this board. It's looking manageable at this point.
Treacherous Kill Command.
Yes, such betrayal.
Ooh. Hey, look, it's Bitter Tide Hydra. Bitter Tide Hydra. We're playing it. We're going. Look at that. Look at that thing.
I mean, yes, you're playing it. You have 6 mana, you have a 5 mana
You gotta
creature, and a
go.
1 mana creature. It looks like the obvious play here. Yeah, it's a little risky against Mage with all the freeze and, 1 damage hero power, but you're a Hunter.
I wish Indonesia could actually see Koglarine's hand right now. Because they're playing on that Bitter Tide Hydra like, oh, this could go against us.
It could.
Okay, sure.
It probably won't. I mean, maybe we pick up a Frost Nova off of the Oracle. Maybe Indonesia just gets Firefly and Alley Cat.
You ever just fireball the Bittertide Hydra and then ping it, and you're just like, listen, this is what I got in my life right now. This is what I'm dealing with. I am going to kill that Bittertide Hydra. You will get to do 8 damage, but this is the world I'm currently living in.
Yeah, it's something to consider.
I mean, if you leave the Bittertide Hydra up, like if you just draw dead on the Cold Light Oracle, what's your contingency plan here?
Your contingency plan is draw freeze.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Primordial Glyph into Polymorph, right? We're dropping the Mana Worm. We're digging for Polymorph.
You don't have the mana to play it this turn, though.
Yeah, but
I mean,
still,
you
that's
go
the
for
way.
it on the next turn. Or freezing potion.
Next turn, if the Oracle is cleared, and you have to imagine it's going to be, how do you actually deal with Bittertide Hydra? Is it just going to win the game?
Yeah, he's
Okay,
gonna
that's
hero
fair.
power the bat. Now you're hoping that the Oracle or the Mana Worm go into the Hydra and you clear off with the Fireball. This is very smart.
Oh my goodness.
What's better than one overstated 5 mana cost card, you say? How about 2?
It's Christmas in April.
Por qué no las dos? As white people say.
Oh, Cora, you know I don't speak Spanish. Oh my goodness. You have so many options here, and I actually do think there are a few different ways you can play this. I really just like jamming second Bittertide Hydra hero power. That is the most dominant play. Look at Kuglerion's like, oh, what's going on here?
And how much do we want to assert dominance here?
I
Or
think-
do we just want to play Houndmaster and an Eaglehorn bow? Either way you cut it, this is so much damage in hand for Indonesia.
Come on, you can do it.
They're timid. Can you blame them?
I can't blame them, but I hope they arrive at what I know to be the correct... Oh my goodness, you didn't see one cleared. Oh my goodness, it's Lord of the Rings 2 Hydras. It's everything you wanted.
To his credit, Kuglorin doesn't look upset.
No, this is... Kuglerin's seen it all, man. You can't... You're not going to necessarily like get him. Like we saw, some players earlier on being kind of frustrated. Kuglerin's like, well then. 2 Bittertide Hydras again.
I see.
This has probably already happened to him like 6 times.
Just another average Friday.
Yeah, just another day playing Hearthstone, and you can no longer say Heroes of Warcraft. It's redacted. Oh my
God.
goodness. Not like this.
Dude, why me? Why do I place a curse on everybody that I
Cora,
hype?
It's not time to evaluate your personal life. Let's just keep it focused on Hearthstone. Okay, let's look at the bright side for Brazil. You have an ice block up. That's cool, right?
I suppose.
That's something. You're
It's
not-
something.
you're not gonna
greater
see-
arcane missiles.
Okay, this could be big. Ow. 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 Okay.
Yeah, all right. That's actually pretty good.
But look, you're the hunter, man. This is why I like Bittertide Hydra. You don't care that you're at 15 health. Like, okay, maybe they get the fireballs, maybe it pans out, but can he pop block this turn? He can. Can he? No, he's a few off.
5, 8, 16.
No, he should be able to do it. shouldn't
17, 18. Yeah, you can pop
Yeah,
him at 1
pop with
with
the kill
bow
command.
kill command hero
Yep.
power.
he? Yeah, I think you're going for it. I mean, you just watch your opponent drop greater arcane missiles, which I think tells you a fair bit about what your opponent's going through.
And the thing is, if your opponent has double fireball in hand,
Good luck.
yeah,
Hey,
you lose, but
you got more games to come. This is like you can just ice out the series right here. So
Yeah.
I like this.
Take
Set him
that
to 1.
chance.
Yep. Either Kogoron's going to end a game here, or he's going to play second ice block. So either way, I think that is just always the best call.
Frost Nova off the top, that's
Nope.
not going to do it now. Would have been great several turns ago.
So you could Cold Light Oracle into ice block, buys you another turn, potentially buys you the burn to close out this game. But yeah, you have to Cold Light Oracle.
Oh,
Okay.
he gets it.
So you get the ice block. I'd like to see does he want to play the Mana Worm here?
It's possible he wants to play the Blood Mage Thalnos and go for... Well, no, if you just ping the Bittertide Hydra, you're doing 3 damage to face. Actually, this
This is game.
I think they just got this all locked up.
Yep.
Blood Mage Thalnos, Fireball, Hero Power. Yeah, that's going to be...
Okay, so you remember when I was saying Bittertide Hydra maybe doesn't have any drawbacks? A little premature on that call.
I recall that time.
I don't. Short memory.
I mean,
Like
Sure.
Like
Why
Kobe
not?
Bryant, just a short memory after each loss. I try not to think about it. But yeah, this is actually going to spell the end for Resdan at least, and it'll be up to the rest of the Indonesian squad, specifically Joth, to get it done.
We're going to a game 4. Finally.
Man, this is one of those things when you watch the VOD of this, you're like, well, I wasn't really playing around greater arcane missiles.
Well, I didn't play around Cold Light Oracle top deck Ice Block.
But
That's okay.
that's at least something you expect,
Yeah.
right? Like, you figure that's going to happen. Okay, well, Resdan going out and just playing his hand, but we know better. Kulgareen is going to turn this around, so hats off to him. That was certainly a tall order. That was 2 Bitter Tide Hydras on the board.
It was a poor draw for Kaglorn. It was some really bad Primordial Glyphs, but stayed positive throughout that, and he got the job done.
Yeah, he's laughing the whole time. You can tell his team is saying
They're like, we got one, guys!
encouraging stuff. It's like, it's just Bitter Tide Hydras.
It's just a 5-mana 8/8.
Yeah.
Ping it, deal 3 damage to face.
Oh, I think what I would do is I would ping the Bitter Tide Hydra and then fireball the Bitter Tide Hydra.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that. You remove the Bitter Tide Hydra, and you kill them. Well, that's going to be one game. Over to Brazil.
Yeah, so it's mean. So I don't know that I necessarily fully agree with Joe there, but I think for Hearthstone specifically, he's correct. And we see here Legolas is going to be on that Quest Warrior, and Joth is going to be on the Miracle Rogue.
Yeah, this is most likely going to be very similar to the list that Eloise hit rank 1 on the Asia Pacific server with. It has a lot of the traditional Miracle Rogue style to it. Edwin Van Cleef, Questing Adventurer. The addition of Hallucination and the Razor Petals, the 1-mana deal 1 damage combo pieces, really give this deck some great strength. I'm seeing Shiv in the opening hand as well. That's interesting to me. I don't think that is an absolute inclusion in this deck.
I think, and when I think Rogue and I'm like, where do I get my list? I usually just go to Casey, obviously a German player of some renown, especially when it comes to Rogue. I went to see his list, and I believe his list does run Shiv. But yeah, Shiv is kind of one of those spells that runs in and out of the meta.
It's a flex spot.
Depending, on pretty much who's dictating what list you're supposed to be playing.
I will crush you.
Oh, Legolas, please.
He is wanting to make his intentions known.
Yeah, Joe just replies with a very calm thank you and says, okay, well, that's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be.
I respect that.
Well, he's also in charge now, so.
I respect that less, but you know what? I understand it.
Okay, so the immediate call I want to ask you about. Do you just straight up on this, next turn, potentially, or turn 3, go for a huge questing adventure? Obviously Conceal, Hall of Fame now.
Yep.
Conceal is no longer a factor, so you're not waiting for that big Conceal turn with the questing adventure. With a hand like what you have, do you just maybe consider kind of going all in on that pretty soon?
I think against a warrior,
You don't
it's
win this
not a
long
bad
term.
bet.
Yeah.
No, you don't win this long term. Certainly, that's not the rogue's best chance. And the only way, really, that Legolas is going to clear the questing adventurer is execute shield block, shield slam. I think
yeah.
it's relatively safe to just go for it if Joth decides that's his best bet. But look at this hand. He has so many combo pieces for the questing adventurer if he wants it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem here is that, okay, he has to play the coin first to even get the questing adventure just out of the hand. And then from there, he can prep out the hallucination, he can backstab, but, he can't just go all in with the Ironforge portal, but maybe that's enough.
Well, I think you probably hold off. Certainly they're considering it for this turn, but I don't know that it's necessary right now.
One point I want to make is if you don't go for it now, the Armorsmith is going to hit one of the minions, and then backstab on it is no longer an option.
You just backstab it right now.
But you're losing out on the questing buff. Do you think that's a big deal?
You're gaining the coin on next turn, which
Sure.
it would be the same thing as the backstab buff on the questing, so I think this is totally fine.
Okay.
And Indonesia doesn't want to give away what they have in their hand. Exactly. If they were to go full in on questing this turn, Brazil knows, okay, you've got like 2 cards in your hand right now, and 1 card from my class from Hallucination. Now I know exactly what I need to do to beat you. So I think there's nothing wrong with just waiting a little bit longer, biding your time.
Yeah, this is what makes Rogue such a fun class, and when you talk to the Rogue aficionados of the Hearthstone Pro community, they'll tell you it's making these split decisions, and I will be the first to say, like, I got to Golden Rogue with like a 25% win rate. It was just, I was crawling through just a bed of nails to get there, but I finally did. And Rogue is one of those super fun classes because every game is different.
Every game is certainly different. I will be the first to admit that Rogue is not my favorite class. Miracle Rogue in particular has been around for so long now that I feel like I've just seen it so many times. And it gets a little bit old for me. I did hit Legend with a Jade Rogue build last month.
Yep.
Very different than what we're seeing here right now.
It's a fun deck list.
It's a fun deck list. It's a good list. I don't think it's the best for competitive play right now. Miracle and Quest Rogue are certainly better, but let's just say I prefer the Quest Warrior in this matchup.
Yeah, and I do say, I want to at least make the point that, yes, while there are some key Miracle components to this, and that playstyle feels similar, there are some new things in here to where, I want to point out, it's still, especially if you haven't played the deck recently, it is still a fairly new experience with the Razor Petal Lashers, the one-mana spells, the hallucinations. So I've been enjoying it personally, but I also totally see where you're coming from.
It is definitely a different experience than pre-Ungoro Miracle Rogue.
I think you kind of hate to see the damage go there. But yeah, this is an interesting situation now. Well, it's suddenly less interesting because Legolas, I'm pretty sure you just slam execute. In every universe.
I mean, that's the perfect use of mana. It's the perfect 2-card combination. Yeah, Shield Block, Shield Slam would have been good too, but I'm not getting picky. Slam Execute is everything that you could possibly want here. And it is really going to hurt Indonesia. Yes, Cold Blood on your patches into Acolyte of Pain sucked, but patches Cold Blood wasn't going to be your win condition here. A giant questing adventurer that your opponent can't deal with, that's going to win you the game potentially. You want to protect that. Acolyte of Pain, that was an Execute activator. You needed to get it off the board. Unbeknownst to Joth, slams in hand for Legolas.
Yeah, and now you're suddenly thinking, okay, well, I have the Slam Execute if I really want it gone, but Legolas probably, considering the upside of playing that Bloodhoof Brave, just decides, hey, look, this is the problem. I'm just going to get rid of it now. I don't want it to get bigger and potentially spiral out of control. And now Indonesia is just kind of in a weird spot where, double prep, hallucination, Ironforge Portal, and now Razor Petal Lasher.
This would be a fantastic hand if Indonesia and Joth are able to pick up Gadgets and Auctioneer.
Yep.
Or Edwin Van Cleef, but right now...
Or Edwin Van Leaf.
Edwin Van Leaf as well.
Yep.
He is fantastic. But right now, it's a little sparse. There's not much that they really want to bite the bullet on because it makes Gadgets and Auctioneer weaker if they are to draw it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I actually don't mind just going for the hallucination. Maybe you get something off of it that allows you to actually start doing something.
I mean, maybe you get Shield Block, you draw into better cards. Yeah, Grimy Gadgeteer is not bad.
Yeah. I mean, it will buff the Razor Petal Lasher. I mean, I think that's just a clear choice. You just need a minion on the board.
Yeah, can't play it until next turn, but...
yeah, that's unfortunate. But, you did get a minion at least. Cursed mana.
4/3 body. It's the best that was represented of those three choices. Unfortunately, a lot of warrior class cards are very weak.
Yeah, you're usually really just kind of gunning for the removal options for them. And since you don't really need removal options here, warrior not exactly the best class to be taking cards from.
Sometimes you get high-value minions. Sometimes you get Inner Rage. Can't get Bolster anymore, though. That's important to note.
Oh, thank you, Set Rotation. You've done us all a service.
You've taken away Bolster right when Taunt Warrior becomes viable.
As you see Bolster, press F to pay respects to Bolster. Grand Tournament card who, never really got to his prime.
Rip Bolster. Feels bad Bolster.
I think, I feel like I'm just mentioning Brian a lot, but Brian did actually make a Taunt Warrior deck at one point back in the day that I believe used Bolster, but that was probably the most action it ever saw.
I mean, if anybody did it, I'm betting it's Brian.
Or Savitz or Tice or one of those guys.
Amaz.
Yeah.
Probably somebody we watched on Twitch.
Definitely. All right, so Ironforge Portal here. I mean, it costs 5 mana. Maybe you get a reasonable minion for 4. Maybe you get a 4 mana 7/7. You don't. You actually get something that's just literally worse. Legolas, the BM.
The Grove. Why?
Okay, as you see, it's pretty playful back and forth. Legolas is laughing. Even Joth is looking kind of excited.
You know what? I love this. Well-natured fights between friends from different countries.
I mean, I don't know if these guys are friends. That's just it. You know, I
They're
talk
friends
to.
now.
We're all friends in the tavern. Aha.
Haha.
Nexoc 40, you know, said that a lot of the Indonesian guys know the Brazilian guys because they play on the same servers and they talk back and forth. So, I mean, it's possible these two actually know each other.
Maybe they know each other. Maybe they hate each other because
No,
they've
not in
played each other
Hearthstone.
at High Legend. I don't know, Rob.
Well, Joth continues just being a bad situation.
Yeah. At the mercy of his draws, as Admirable would say, and often does.
Yeah, that's right. You spend a lot of time with Admirable. I feel like you
I
probably
do.
know all the Admirable.
This is the first time that I've actually casted with someone other than Admirable in like 8 weeks.
No, you casted with Lothar for the championship.
That's true. I did
Yep.
cast with Lothar. Yep. I wasn't
Got
around him
to.
enough to learn
Got
the
to.
Lotharisms.
Yeah. In case you don't necessarily tune in, and you should, Cora is one of the flagship casters for the Collegiate Hearthstone series. So
Oh, stop. I'm blushing and they can't even see.
we do have the championship coming up pretty soon here, so we will both be involved in that. But yeah, in the meantime, Joe's just basically trying to turn nothing into something.
Stolen goods isn't going to do it. That's actually standard bolster right now, and I'm ashamed that I forgot it existed. But yeah, it's just as bad.
And then you see it not activate. Oh my goodness. Legolas is having an absolute field
So
day.
bad. I mean, he is in full control of this matchup right now. It's honestly just going through the motions until the rogue draws gadgets in Auctioneer, at which point maybe they can fight their way back into the game.
I mean,
But
this,
even that's not a guarantee.
this is something worth noting now. The way the quest works for the warrior, look, playing minions is just always strictly like a reasonable thing.
It
'cause you're
advances
always-
you towards a goal.
Right, whereas, the nature of rogue, at least at this point in the game, is just basically you're always drawing spells. And, if you watch the plight of the priest class, spells are sometimes not always, necessarily going to do much for you. They're not developing you on the board. They're usually pretty reactive. What makes spells so good in rogue is the fact that you can chain them up together really quickly to do things, like buff up a questing adventure, make a giant Edwin Van Cleef. Usually what makes it good. We do see Mimic Pod into the hand now, so if this is a gadget and Auctioneer off the Mimic Pod, this could be big. Okay.
Shares in Corpse Flower. Okay, that is another big inclusion from Journey to Ungoro. 4-mana 5/3 Death Rattle, go dormant. Play 4 cards in a turn to revive this minion. So essentially, once you play it on board, it is always going to be there. It lives through brawls in its dormant state. And if on any turn you play 4 cards, it comes back as that 5/3 minion. It is a huge nuisance for Taunt Warrior to deal with.
Yeah, and the card art, that was actually the same face I made when 2 Bittertide Hydras were on the board. I was that excited.
Can confirm it was nearly identical. A little bit less orange and leafy, but pretty close.
My stocks, were just flailing around. I was very excited. I had the flower eyes, but maybe a little bit too little too late, but I think the start of how you get back in this game is jamming both Sherazine Corpse Flowers.
I mean, talk about legendaries that influencers wrote off prior to Ungoro. This card looked bad, and it turns out it's not that bad.
Back in the day, people wrote off Dr. Boom, too. They were
That's true, we did
Trogzor,
that.
the way of the future. We're going.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Hey, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, it's not a complete science predicting like over 100 cards in the meta.
Yeah.
Happy to say a lot of times guys and girls get them right, but
Thank you for that.
okay. Sherazine Corpse Flower now goes dormant, goes into its little
Pod state.
comfy plant hut.
Comfy plant hut.
Yeah.
Just as you called your arms stalks. Okay,
There's a trend.
I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so more than enough cards in hand to reactivate the Corpse Flowers.
You can play stolen goods even when you don't have a taunt minion in hand.
That is the value. With its dying breath, it's like, look, I can do something for you.
I can revive your Sherazins.
I'm trying, man.
It's the best you're gonna get.
This is fun. I've yet to see 2 Sharazims on the board at the same time. I love this. This was something that was previewed before the set came out. Sharazim has the little leaves that are obviously lighting up as the cards are played, so very exciting. Okay, and you know, this is really telling of this game state so far to where realistically this is still not actually a problem for Legolas.
No.
Being honest, Legolas is in such a good spot. He's progressed so much towards his win condition. Again, Indonesia had to exhaust resources to bring those flowers back, and unfortunately, Sharazim Corpse Flower is not statted in a way that's advantageous to this particular situation.
No, if Sharazim were to have come down earlier in the matchup, it can be very difficult for the warrior to have to repeatedly kill. But having come down so late, now Joth has no resources in hand. It's just not nearly as difficult to overcome, especially since now Legolas has access to Sulfuras, and that is what he was anticipating by playing the Ally Armorsmith this turn instead of the Curator, which he initially hovered over.
Yeah, it's you know, it was always looking grim though in this game, at least for Joe. So we see the.
You can just kill him.
Yeah, I was gonna say we just take the 33% chance, and all right, we have an ace match on our hands between Brazil and Indonesia. Brazil has climbed back into this after the heroics of Kogler. Okay, we are in fact going to see the caverns below. Okay, so when you are looking to win with this deck, Cora, what are you looking for in the mulligan?
In the mulligan, you're looking for pretty much exactly this. This is quite good. So play 4 minions with the same name, reward Crystal Core. Essentially, if you play a Stone Tusk Boar, if you Shadow Step it, then play it again. If you Gadgets and Ferryman it, then play it again. Youthful Brewmaster, play it again. You get the Crystal Core, 5 mana spell, all of your minions are 5/5. So in this case, Boar goes back, Swashbuckler is better for the bounce back effect because it has a battle cry. But eventually, if you've played Crystal Core, that Boar comes out as a 1 mana 5/5 charge. That is the point at which it is so difficult for the rogue to lose the game if they've accomplished that early on.
Yeah, that's a pretty good synopsis. From what you described, and realistically anyone who has played this against this deck knows, this deck, similar to Old Miracle Rogue, is basically playing a game by itself while it tries to ignore you. It's just pulled up Solitaire in a little window, and it's trying to win the game and ignore you, and that's why aggro decks are realistically, at least right now, the only deck's type, I guess, that necessarily has a leg up. Because it basically says, no, you can't ignore me, I'm hitting you in the face. So again, aggro decks,
right.
as I've said before, aggro
Yes,
decks are...
aggro decks are always very strong.
I don't feel like people appreciate what we do enough. We keep the ladder clean.
Aggro decks are very strong, but we're not seeing too much representation, and Goro has certainly slowed down the meta quite a bit. Yeah. With the exception of Quest Rogue, which actually can, after you've played 4 minions with the same name, use preparation to prep out the Crystal Core, and at that point, it's doing things it shouldn't be able to do, and then it hits you in the face for 5 a lot.
Yeah. Okay, well, we see the decision by Kogler to just go ahead and bring the dagger online and trade out that Flame Imp. That Flame Imp was representing too much damage over time. Ooh. This is a pretty unfortunate situation here. That Ravasaur Runt, if there's 2 other minions on the board, it does get an adaptation, but as we can see, there isn't, and I feel like you don't necessarily want to Soulfire here. What do you... Like, yeah, you have Malchezaar's Imp on the board, but are you just Soulfiring face?
I think, honestly, you might just have to Ravasaur Runt and go for the Pterodax in the following turn. This is a really bad hand for the discard Zoo Warlock. So Zoo does not use their quest, but did get the inclusion of the Lucari Fellhound, the Ravenous Pterodax, and then, of course, the Ravasaur Runt. So it does have really fantastic discard synergy now.
Yeah.
But this hand is just so stinking slow. You don't want 2 Soulfires in your hand.
On the plus side, I don't necessarily want to undersell the situation. Brazil doesn't necessarily have anything amazing going on either. They basically can bring the Swashbuckler back to play it a 3rd time. So they still need 1 more effect. Cho'Gall is, for all intents and purposes, a dead draw here. Not only does the actual ability of the minion not do anything for you, realistically, its stats actually go lower.
Yeah, you're never getting to turn 7 and wanting to play Cho'Gall. It's might as well just not be there at this point. So
Yep.
the Swashbuckler can come down for the third time. Kaglorin needs to find one more bounce back effect, either Shadow Step, Ferryman, or Youthful Brewmaster, so that he can play the Swashbuckler the fourth time.
Yep.
When that happens, you do complete the quest and get the Crystal Core.
Yeah, it's going to be really on the Zoo player now to just go ahead and, go wide on the board, get minions that have a sizable amount of HP, and just start pushing the agenda. I actually really just like Soulfire here. If you drop the Pterodax, you drop it, but it looks like he does not, though. We saw the Soulfire no longer lit up, so
Ooh,
that would have been
that kind of sucks.
would have been great sooner. Yeah, Silverware Golem, just high rolling that off of the. I mean, I say high rolling, but when I say that, I'm saying actually you can usually pretty strategically leverage it into being discarded. So accomplishing that would have put Indonesia in a way better position here.
It's a calculated risk.
Yep.
And actually, if you're looking at this matchup, obviously the weakness of the Quest Rogue is either a terrible draw of their own in the mulligan, or an aggressive deck. Zoo, it's slowed down a little bit with the addition of Lakari Fellhound, but it's still a rather aggressive tempo-based deck. It's like the tempo deck that's as old as time.
Yep.
And in theory, it should perform relatively well against this Rogue deck. The start, unfortunately, for Indonesia was just a lot slower than they wanted it to be. This is sick.
Yeah, so Vanish is an inclusion that it's honestly just nuts to me.
That's hilarious.
Have you never seen this before?
I've seen Vanish in the lists. I've never seen it
No, you
prepped on
would
turn
use it
4.
to use it to bounce it
It's
out
awesome.
there. Yeah.
And it also shuts down the aggression from the Zoo build. Okay, that's sweet.
Quite possibly the only comfort you take from this as an Exoc 40 is that's one less prep that can potentially be used for the Crystal Core. So you basically are like, okay, I have a little bit more time in my head because prep is probably, the second copy of it is probably not in the hand. But it is absolutely a race against time now because you know with all certainty that quest is about to be completed.
Yeah, it is a brief comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. And actually looking at Indonesia's hand right now, it's pretty spicy. Doomguard will come down likely on the next turn, discard Silverware Golem, which comes on board as well. And it's looking like Brazil will have to wait an additional turn to be able to play Crystal Core. If that takes up their entire turn, maybe Indonesia has enough aggression on board to close out this game before Crystal Core even matters for the Rogue.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the only silver lining you read as Nexoc 40. And I actually like this. Just go for the plants. Just basically try to have as much on the board as possible so that if he spends his turn looking to, just deal with the board, you're making it as resilient as possible.
It's looking like they're thinking about feeding time this turn and then Swashbuckler and immediately Crystal Core next turn. I think this is really smart. You are risking taking way too much damage if you leave that Knife Juggler on board.
Okay, so could look at the Pterodax and then just going for Defender of Argus. But you pretty much realize you have to deal with those 1/1s.
Yeah, those are 5/5s
Which is-
if you leave them on the board.
Which is essentially where the beginning of the end is. Because you're no longer hitting face, which is the only way you're going to win this to begin with. But you're not going to realistically probably trade enough to where you can somehow eke out a win.
So 2 of these 1/1s going down easily. Do you Doomguard into another one? Honestly, yeah, you might have to.
I don't hate the idea. Voidwalker, hey, look, that's a 1/3. I'll take it.
Now I'm probably going face.
Okay. I mean, you have to figure out how much damage you have. You have, with what's on the board, you had 8, 11, 12.
It would have been 17. Yeah. You've ditched both Soulfires. That would have made Argus or Direwolf an out.
It's such a tough call. There we see the Caverns Below is completed. So that is going to bring the Crystal Core into Kuglorin's hand.
The preparation actually is
pretty big.
Pretty important here because it allows Kuglorin to be able to do something else this turn as well.
Ooh, Glacial Shard. So that is a recent addition. This was not necessarily in the original lists for this, but Glacial Shard is just, to be honest, brutal. It is a 1-mana 2/1 that obviously is going to become a 5/5 with the Crystal Core activated, and Battle Cry frees an enemy. So if you're just thinking, all right, I'm dying to aggro, that's the only thing I'm losing to. How do I beat it? That's how you beat it.
Nice to meet you.
You were just sitting there the whole time, like smiling, like, I just want to say this thing. But, yeah. Yeah, Nexoc 40, though, and Indonesia are just suddenly... I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how you win from this point. If the Doomguard wasn't frozen, you could at least take one of the 5/5s off the board and just kind of go from there. You could trade in the Silverware Golem and the Ravasaur Runt. You leave up the Voidwalker to soak something up. You could potentially use the Pterodax, stealth it, try to do something, but I think you got to go Pterodax here, and then I think you also have to go Ravasaur Runt and just try to stealth him.
If you'd hit face last turn, there'd be an extra 5/5 on the board for them, but they would be down to 14. You'd have 2, 3, 6, 7. It's just tough.
Are you gonna need
Taunt? Yeah, there's taunt.
Okay.
That's a start. Ravenous Pterodax, destroy a friendly minion, adapt twice.
Oh, this is okay, so
Sure.
automatically selected Volcanic Might. At least you got something out of it. Okay, so from this point on, every minion played is a 5/5.
Played or generated. All minions,
Yep.
period, are 5/5.
Yeah, now we start getting to the point where, you know, somebody Southsea Deckhand, Stone Tusk Boar can come out, value trade, be bounced back by a Youthful Brewmaster, a Gadget's In Ferryman, Shadow Step. So this deck just, I mean, it really just fires on all cylinders and grinds you out if it doesn't just automatically kill you with 5/5s.
Very smart on the part of Indonesia to kill the Glacial Shard. If that were to be bounced back and played again,
Yeah.
Doomsayer would be permafrozen. So it was very wise of them to take that out.
Just let Doomsayer attack.
I just don't know that they have the power to race, especially with both Soulfires being gone.
No, I definitely don't think the race is something you can win. It's
But you can't win the trade game either.
yeah. So basically, the long and the short of this is now you cannot win. Yeah, and before we necessarily go to the point where like, all right, well, Crystal Core Rogue just kind of did its own thing and won, you could certainly go back as Indonesia and look at some of the places where you didn't
Yeah.
necessarily go face. I think there was definitely some missed damage opportunities, but I certainly think when you had the 3/1/1 Pterodactyl tokens on the board, I think you had to deal with at least 2 of them.
The way that the draws panned out, I don't think it would have made a difference.
Sure.
But had they gone face for 5, put their opponents down to 14, there was the potential that like a Doomguard and a Direwolf Alpha could have finished the game. Evidently, they have neither of those cards, so I think it's a moot point. But
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. It's
I
really
think I
very
did-
unfortunate for Indonesia.
I think I did see a Direwolf Alpha in the deck.
Yeah,
But
I'm
that
sure
was-
there's one there.
Yeah. It's a staple of Zoo, to be sure. But yeah, Indonesia is just kind of trying to figure out, like, you know, is there anything we can do? And Koglarine just throwing it out there. And yeah, Indonesia is not super amused by that one.
No, I can't imagine they would be. You know what? To their credit, they're going to play this one out. Now they are attempting to set up lethal with another Doomguard draw if Koglarine does not clear the board, but I think that's just going to be it. 10 more damage coming from hand. Hero power, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30.
Yeah. Once Zoo's off the board, Zoo's not coming back. There's no implosions these days. You know, you're not running anything that allows you to get back on the board, so.
All right, so 1/5 into 6 health, hero power. Well, you actually can't afford to hero power. You're at 10. You don't want to die to a top deck Doomguard. 5, 10, 15, 16. Huh.
I mean, if there is upside, Brazil's hand is pretty much at the moment just nothing impressive at all.
No, it's
It's
quite bad. It's all generated cards off of Swashbuckler. Oh, do you play the Apothecary?
I mean,
You do if you think that this board is going to get the
Yeah.
job done, but if you even remotely think you have to play another minion,
okay, what goes ahead and errs on the side of safety. We see Koglarine thinking it over, but
I don't think it's going to matter, but
yeah.
yep, that's going to be match point over to Brazil. Coming back from the very edge, a reverse sweep in their first match of this tournament.
Yeah. We see Indonesia finally giving that little bit of a smile, like, okay, well, you know, we lost.